What if I told you the greatest baseball legend of all time almost didn't he make it past childhood? This is the unbelievable beginning of Babe Ruth, the man who would save baseball. Before he was the Sultan of Swat or the Great Bambino, Babe Ruth was simply George Herman Ruth Jr. Born in Baltimore in 1895, his childhood was nothing like the American dream. His parents ran a saloon in a rough neighborhood. Young George was out of control, skipping school, fighting, chewing tobacco at 7 years old, and stealing from shops. By age 7, his parents gave up. They sent him away to St. Mary's Industrial School for Boys, a Catholic reform school where troubled kids were locked behind walls. It could have broken him, but instead it gave him purpose. At St. Mary's, he met Brother Matthias, a man who became his mentor and father figure. Under Matthias' guidance, Ruth learned discipline and discovered baseball. He played every position, but two things stood out: his powerful left-handed swing and his skill as a pitcher. Both would change the game. At 19, Baltimore Orioles scout Jack Dunn spotted Ruth's talent and signed him immediately. Because Ruth was still a minor, Dunn legally became his guardian. Teammates joked he was Jack's baby, and the nickname Babe stuck forever. Ruth's career moved quickly. After just 5 months with Baltimore, he was sold to the Boston Red Sox. At first, he dominated as a pitcher. In 1916, he led the American League with a 1.75 ERA and helped Boston win the World Series. By 1917, he won 24 games on the mound. But his bat was too powerful to keep on the bench. Fans flocked to the stadiums just to watch him hit during practice. His home runs weren't just long. They were towering moonshots unlike anything the game had seen. In 1918, he hit 11 home runs, more than entire teams managed that season. By 1919, Boston realized they had something bigger on their hands. Manager Ed Barrow moved him to the outfield full-time, unleashing Babe Ruth the hitter. That year, he shattered the single-season home run record with 29. But Boston's joy didn't last. Broke and desperate, Red Sox owner Harry Frazier made a decision that would haunt the franchise for decades. He sold Ruth to the New York Yankees. The curse of the Bambino had begun. This was just the beginning of Babe Ruth's legend. In the next chapter, you'll see how he turned New York into his personal kingdom. Before we get there, do you think Boston made the biggest mistake in sports history? Comment below. When Babe Ruth arrived in New York, he didn't just join the Yankees, he redefined baseball itself. This is how one man transformed a struggling team into the most feared dynasty in sports. In December 1919, Ruth was sold to the Yankees for $100,000 and a loan. Boston fans were devastated, but no one could predict just how much history was about to change. In 1920, Ruth didn't just break records, he obliterated them. He had 54 home runs that season, more than any other entire team except his own. Overnight, baseball became a different game. The dead ball era was over. Fans no longer came for bunts and stolen bases. They came to watch Babe Ruth swing for the fences. Ruth was more than just power. He was a showman. He tipped his cap after blasts, pointed to the stands, and carried himself larger than life. Hot dogs, beer, late nights. He lived big, and America loved it. The press couldn't get enough. In 1921, he hit 59 home runs and drove in 171 RBIs, carrying the Yankees to their first pennant. They lost the World Series, but a dynasty was forming. In 1923, the Yankees opened a new home, Yankee Stadium. It was nicknamed the house that Ruth built, designed with short right field dimensions perfect for his swing. Fittingly, he christened it by hitting the first home run there. From then on, Yankee Stadium became a cathedral of baseball, and Ruth was its high priest. Throughout the 1920s, Ruth dominated. In 1927, he hit 60 home runs, a record that stood for 34 years. That Yankees squad, often called Murderers Row, is still considered the greatest team ever assembled. They won 110 games and swept the World Series. But Ruth was more than numbers. His personality turned him into America's first true sports celebrity. After the Black Sox scandal of 1919 nearly destroyed baseball, Ruth single-handedly revived the sport. He restored faith and excitement. Kids across the country copied his swing. He visited sick children in hospitals, promising to hit home runs for them, and then delivering. To millions, Babe Ruth wasn't just a ball player. He was a hero. But even heroes face hecklers. In our next chapter, you'll see how Ruth silenced his doubters with one of the most legendary moments in sports history. If you're enjoying this story, hit like and subscribe so you don't miss part 3. Imagine being heckled by thousands, told you re-finished, and then pointing to the stands before hitting a home run exactly where you aimed. That's Babe Ruth's magic. By the early 1930s, Ruth was older, heavier, and slowing down. Critics said his time was over. But in the 1932 World Series against the Chicago Cubs, he gave baseball one of its most enduring legends. In Game 3, after relentless taunts from the Cubs dugout and boos from the crowd, Ruth stepped to the plate. He pointed toward center field, then launched the next pitch over the fence in that exact spot. The called shot was born. Did he really call it? No one knows for sure. But in truth, it didn't matter. Fans wanted to believe, and Ruth gave them something to believe in. He turned a game into theater, and a swing into mythology. By 1934, his playing days were nearly done. He joined the Boston Braves in hopes of becoming a manager, but it was painful to watch. He could barely run the bases, and his batting average sank below 200. Yet on May 25, 1935, in Pittsburgh, he delivered one last miracle. At age 40, Babe Ruth hit 3 home runs in a single game. The last clearing Forbes Field's roof, something no one had ever done. It was his 714th and final homer. 4 days later, he retired. Ruth passed away in 1948 at just 53 years old. Over 100,000 mourners filed past his casket at Yankee Stadium, paying tribute to the man who had become a national treasure. President Harry Truman called him an American hero. His impact? Beyond measure. He retired with 714 home runs, a record that stood for nearly 40 years. His single-season record of 60 lasted until Roger Maris hit 61 in 1961. His OPS of 1.164 is still the best in history. More than stats, Ruth changed how athletes were seen as entertainers, celebrities, and icons. Even today, when a slugger crushes a towering home run, fans still whisper his name. He was the Sultan of Swat, the Colossus of Clout, the Great Bambino, the man who didn't just play baseball. He saved it. Do you believe Babe Ruth is still the greatest player who ever lived? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more stories of legends who shaped the game, subscribe now so you never miss the next one.